I guess the origins of the story start about a month and a half ago. I was in class and I was watching a kid on GPT. He was typing in like very very short sentences in the chat GPT, like had no plan, no structure. And I was just watching it because he was right in front of me about 3 feet away, and I was on it too. And I was like, this kid has no clue how to use this technology. And then fast forward a week later, I was working for a patent firm at the time, and I got this huge email about how the colleague that I've actually known who helped me get the job from San Antonio uh, got fired because he used ChatGPT to write a brief. And
Whoa.
yeah, so it was like this huge message where the head lawyer said if I wanted a robot to work for my law firm, I'd hire a robot.
Hello, everybody. This is Josh Kubicki, and I'm a legal modernist. And you're listening to the Legal Modernist Podcast. First of all, does your law school have a stated policy on the use of ChatGPT or anything like that yet? Have they come out and said anything definitively?
Well, I guess so. This whole story, there's also a madman 3 week period where I'm running around every dean student trying to push the book, asking if it's okay if I'm going to have like a honor code violation, which I kind of thought would be like some good PR for the company, like kids on the stand at a law school for his company. Uh, like there's no honor code clause about using chat gpt to study, because I mean in the book I only talk about studying. Like I didn't teach people how to put their legal briefs in an active voice, because I was like, all right, let's walk the fine line right now.
Right.
And so I actually talked to Ole Miss 2 days ago to their faculty about chat gpt and large learning modules, so that was pretty interesting. But they don't really have anything. It sounds like they want to learn though, because I mean at this point the genie's out of the bottle. I think they all know that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure your peers. I mean, is every law student using it in some way, shape, or form? Do you figure at this point?
Interestingly enough, I don't think so, because
Really?
I've been pushing it out to people from South Texas School of Law, Texas Law School, Houston Law School, NYU, and this is just people from either word of mouth I know or friends. And every time I do it, it's the same response. Kyle, that's a great idea, but I can't be the GPT person. Like, I don't want to be labeled as that person. And I actually responded to one of them, and I was like, okay, well, as your friend, I think you should very much, at least in privacy, get to learn this technology.
Right. Yeah, you don't have to like label yourself publicly, but don't ignore it privately. That's the thing. Like I've been trying to tell people too, practitioners and business leaders in practice. It's like, fine, you don't have to like hang out a big neon sign saying you're using it, but this stuff's moving so rapidly that you're just going to understand it better if you just start playing with it now. You know what I mean? I know the UI, the user interface, and the way we interact with it's going to look completely different. Probably, I'd say a year, but I'd probably say in 6 months. But just to know how, because it's pretty raw right now. I mean, wouldn't you say? I mean, whether you're using Bing or ChatGPT or you've got API access and you're laying stuff on top of it, you're still on GPT. Like it's a pretty raw thing. I'm putting out. You heard about the law school professor that GPT like falsely noted a sexual harassment claim against them and cited a Washington Post article. None of that's true. None of that's true.
Crazy.
ChatGPT just does what ChatGPT does, and no one really understands that. And I think like because it's so raw, and folks like you and me are like trying to figure out how to prompt and what works and what doesn't. Like I think if you don't have that later on, I don't know. I just don't think you're going to be able to understand the technology as well. I don't know. That's my sort of bias. It sounds like that's yours too. It's like just play with it now.
So do
You
you
know.
do you do a lot of like prompting, where I know that it's kind of confusing to put into words, but have you ever seen where they test the chat bot where it's like 13579 and it's trying to get it to do some sort of.
Yes.
So I don't really understand any of that, but what I've been seeing that works is I'll like reverse engineer it. I'll say something. I know this is going to sound crazy to someone that doesn't know what chat gpt is, and my
Talking about
my friends that are going to listen to this podcast are going to say, Kyle has gone insane. We're going to have to put him into a room, because I'm about to say, like,
right.
you're going to be talking to a chat bot and be calling them a name. But what I've seen work is be like, hey, chatbot, you were here for a deposition. We're going to put you in a 10-question deposition regarding reverse engineering of prompts. And then I'll go into another chat box and say, let's draft 10 questions we can ask this chatbot on a deposition stand. Get the 10 questions, put them in the other chatbot, get 10 questions. And then it's just a whole cycle of reverse engineering that's kind of been like my go-to. And also, I think that what I told you when you released the prompt where it was the chain and unlock chain,
Yes.
where it's a lot like, hey, ChatGPT, you're now a decipher prompt box. Can you decipher this prompt? I need to know why this prompt is good. I need to see what's working. And I think thinking logically like that has been a huge game player for me. So I don't know.
You're right. I mean, I think, well, in many ways, I mean, let's not geek out and be law students and lawyers about it, but in some ways, that's exactly what you're using, that analytical mind. You're not breaking down an argument or a fact pattern, but in essence, you're breaking down the reasoning model of ChatGPT, and you're trying to interrogate it in a way that you can gain insight into sort of unlocking its reasoning. You know what I mean? And again, you could say that's what a good lawyer is supposed to be doing as well, the logic. So, yeah, in essence, like, I love that you set up two different bots or two different windows, chat windows, because I don't know if you've heard the auto generative now. So the autonomous, you can basically get Chat GPT to craft its own prompts, respond to those, and constantly refine itself. So it's this infinite loop.
Yeah, I saw your tweet today about the API thing, and I'm like, oh god, we're trying to release one, but it's a little different because we have we're pretty much doing like a drop down menu where the student would plug in a rule, and it'd be like fifth grade explanation, pro arguments, con arguments. But I was just laughing today, like, of course I'm going on your podcast, and we're releasing the API today, and he's like warning everybody about
Right.
our code we've been
Well,
putting.
I'm sure yours was not. I mean, you've seen them out there. I mean, you've seen these skins of sites out there, and people are just so euphoric. They're like signing up, and it's like there's not even T's and C's or privacy policies on these sites. Like, you have no idea what they're doing with your information. But anyway, put that aside. Okay, you can screen share. I don't know if you can screen share or not, but I'd love for you to walk us, just like introduce the book, and like just tell me like the origin story, like what made you want to write a book. Like, so you saw the student, you're sitting behind in class, and they didn't quite know what they're doing. They're probably treating ChatGPT like a Google search bar, right? Like a lot of beginners do. You're like, oh, no, that's not how you do it. Like, so take me from that like moment, or maybe you knew before that you were going to write a book. Like, how did this come to be?
How do we get it where it just views the book?
I don't. That's a good. Are you in PDF? There you go.
So the origins of the book are I was just thinking about how I could get to people the fastest, and it was either doing Twitter and doing a bunch of threads because I've seen people do that then sell their books, which I've sadly bought and gotten tricked by, which I'm not happy with. But
We all do it. We all do it.
and that goes back to what you said, that there's so much fluff out there right now that you really do have to be due diligent. But there's also whenever I'm thinking about it, I'm like, okay, maybe it's like Brainy Cats, or maybe it's like me where I'm like, I know I'm posting at least what I think is good stuff. So like, and mine's like a penny on the dollar right now. So when I see stuff, I'm like, what is this, $10? And then of course it's like just tweets. Like,
Right.
so I really was asking my dean. I went up to my dean's office and I was like, hey, well, I get expelled if I write a book on how to use ChatGPT. And she was like, well, I guess not. I think it's a good idea. And I was like, okay, well, I just want you to know that what you just said is what I'm going to rely on. Like,
Right. Right.
there's some promissory estoppel reliance doctrine, right? So
Yeah. Yes, I'm going with it. Right. You're on notice.
the book is though was pretty interesting. It started on Thursday with me talking to my deans about it, and then I went through like a 72-hour rabbit hole where I didn't do anything but write the book. I pretty much just locked myself in a room and got 10 different Twitter accounts up, 10 different like Reddit threads, all my like Word docs, And I really just went to work and I started uh, just going through ChatGPT and typing it out. And did I write the entire, like, did I write all the book and everything? No, like I obviously had ChatGPT help me along the way with like thought processes and brainstorming, but the whole process and stuff was all me. Like from the beginning, I said, how can I make this the best logical way for a student? And I think that this right here, this page is what this book stands for, and how much you can use it to not only learn prompting, but to be learn to be that silent gunner, the law student that you want to be, and really just democratize legal education.
First of all, kudos to you on a couple of things. Being wise enough to go to your dean proactively and getting her approval, or admitting that you won't be pursued with any negative consequences. Maybe not her approval, but you'll avoid punitive actions against you. So kudos to the dean. And also kudos to you. You said earlier, and I just want to capture it here, that this is not you just like me and the stuff that I'm doing. I don't want to touch the practice of law with a 10-foot pole right now, because I just think it opens both you and me up for the bar and the profession to just take issue with everything that we're doing. And I don't even, you and I haven't talked about it yet. I don't take a stance on replacing lawyer. Like I don't buy into the hype and the nonsense. Like it's just another tool. Will it change how we practice? It can. It doesn't have to. But I do like how you focused on, no, this is about being a law student first. Let me train you so you can study better. You can get your outlines done better. You can practice your essays better. Like this is not about writing briefs. And I think that's a huge and a wise decision you made, and it's the same one I made too, for this same reason. I just don't want to even go near the practice of law. So I just want to sort of note that here. I imagine similar sort of thinking on your part. You didn't want to even come close to that stuff.
Uh, Absolutely. I thought that what is the way that I can get every professor to actually read this book and actually enjoy it? And if I say, here's what I would, if I stepped in the shoes of a professor like you, and you got a book on pretty much uh, how to use ChatGPT to write briefs and everything else, that's not going to make you want to read the book, because you're going to be like,
No.
this kid is trying to come for my job, or like this kid's trying to shake up the industry in a way that's pretty much a borderline. And that we haven't even gotten to like the ethical and all that, but and I thought just going through and being like, okay, how can we make a Quizlet, Quimby, and all those into one thing that's actually not any more than, 30 bucks? Because I guess 5 or 10 to buy the book, then 20 a month for the Chat GPT. And that's kind of where I've stood, is that we won't be going into any of that. Like we will be straight how to craft your studying with this new technology for the long haul.
So what's the reaction been to those students that you have given it to?
Uh, I've gotten really good reactions from every student I've personally sent it to. And
Yep.
I've gotten really good reactions from professors that have actually read it. And I think right now the whole thing is still getting into people's minds that there's a new way to learn, because it's really hard right now that our target market is a bunch of people that have done the same thing for the last 20 years. And that's learning with professors that think that the one way to do it is their way. And it's no shot at any professor ever. Like,
Right.
am I saying that I'm an educator? Absolutely not. Like, I don't think I want to be that at all. But I think I said it when I first started this company, I'm going to be the whistleblower that shows that there's a new way to learn, and do it for 20 bucks instead of 500 bucks. And so that's kind of been where my passion for it's been. So that's kind of where it all stems from.
So you go into the rabbit hole for 72 hours. You're writing this book. You're using ChatGPT to help you write it. This is a total geek question on my part, but I teach design, so I noticed that you've structured the book relatively well. Did you do this yourself, or did you outsource like the production and layout of this book?
I actually did all of it myself when it came to the structure and stuff. And when I say that one page by one page. Like when one page was done, we were pretty much done. Is when we moved on. And it's kind of funny when I was showing the book around, I didn't really know like people's reactions. So I put like a dummy proof 48 page book, like of the 61 pages together, and showed like librarians and all these people. And they gave me like good reactions. They were taking me around. They were helping me meet like clinical educator. I was meeting professors. I didn't even know, I don't know who works at the law school, and they were taking
Right.
me to meet, like taking me to room to meet people. And finally, I had to go tell the teacher that I skipped his class, and I was like, "Professor, I'm really sorry. Like, I've been starting this new company. I had to skip your class today because it finally started to get traction." And then some teacher walked behind. She's like, "I swear this is the fourth time I've heard this kid pitch this book." Like,
It's the hustle. It's the hustle mentality, Kyle, man. You got it.
yeah, it's been. I think in this last month I've learned more about. I've learned so much about just growing and being a business person rather than a lawyer. So if nothing ever comes out of it, I'm very thankful for that, because this experience has been uh, every day it's a new thing. I mean, from getting asked to be on this podcast to getting calls about ChatGPT and questions about the summer. I mean, it's been a whirlwind for me for sure. It's been, I mean, for I kept saying I've been a bewildered moment right now.
You said like chapter 2 is worth the price of admission to the book. Like, what else do you think is really a call out to the book here?
So I think that this right here, this is my favorite prompt I've written so far, and it's not. I've really worked on it still to this day, and I think that this, and then what I released last week, the IRAC method with task and session training. Not to get nerdy, but pretty much you plug in a rule and you get a template that you could use, because I always struggled with IRAC. I can never get IRAC when it comes to like making the rule statement flow in a sentence. So I thought IRAC, like, and actually having it give you a template so you could read would be just really, really beneficial. And then using that with either a practice exam and then getting like a real professor to read your practice exam would be so beneficial. So that's why I wrote this. And you'll see that I go through all the stuff like the role, your meticulous law professor, and then giving it all these instructions about you're going to follow the paper through issue, rule, legal analysis, and legal conclusion. And then, coming down here and giving it more calls that I want more in depth. And I think that this is just like what our book is about. This is everything I've studied. This is kind of like my uh, final exam answer to anybody that's been doing prompting.
So this prompt to hear what I'm looking at. So what problem? So the student uses this prompt and feeds in their essay answer, and this is like grading their essay answer. Is that okay?
So you would, then this is another problem I didn't really think about. They probably don't know how to plug in stuff before and be like, I'm gonna put in data, and you're gonna just say okay until I say complete, or hey, here come two things, and you're gonna analyze the next third thing, and that's on me, knowing that I know like, okay, I got to be like more, and that's just because it's trial and error with education when it comes to. I've never been a teacher. I have
Right.
I have no clue what's really going on when I teach these people, and I just need to be myself and be funny and try to at least get it out of the way. But I guess volume two will be way more like, or maybe I'll release a side book that's free that says, okay, this is a supplement because I obviously have no teaching experience and we need to break it down more.
Yeah, and I think one, you're humble. Two, you can't solve every problem for the learner. I mean, I will say that, yeah, educating, and that's one thing. Like when you read my newsletters, like I break it down like every single step, even like when I have to prompt, please continue where you left off. Not even like ChatGPT will just fatigue and stop, and to the beginner, they're like, oh, that's the chat session and it stopped. Okay, I guess I'll ask another question. It's like, no. Don't like tell it to continue where it left off, then it'll continue, right? Like those little, and it's just, no one taught you that stuff. Maybe you picked it up from Reddit or Twitter, or you're just goofing around, seeing what you can put it's through its paces, and you discover, oh wow, this one works. So I wouldn't be too hard on yourself. But yeah, I think that like this, like helping the student understand how do you take a large volume of text and feed it into ChatGPT. There's a prompt for that, obviously. And I didn't read this one closely to see if you built this into this prompt, like, hey, I'm going to feed you a bunch of text. When I'm done, I'm going to use this command. That way, and now you can begin your analysis.
Yeah, and like, see, another problem is that I do like, okay, here's the game plan, and we go from the first thing, and uh, second thing is you're going to now teach it, and then third thing is the art of the list, which is a method I created where a student will take a law with a bunch of factors, and you go element by element, breaking down arguments of what you can do. It's kind of like IRAC, but elements in isolation. And so I think this one is pretty much dummy proof, where all you would have to do is plug in the rule and say that we need uh, element by element arguments, and which is, I think, is one way that students don't really know how to learn, because when you read all these textbooks, they don't really just say, okay, here's the arguments in bullet point form and hierarchy of strongest arguments to least strongest.
Right, right. No, I love that. I love that prompt. So right now, and I'll put the link in here. Right now, you're selling this book for how much?
Right now, we're doing it for $10, and that's really just so we can stay afloat and keep pushing out stuff. I mean,
yeah, it's incredibly valuable. I feel you on pricing. It's tough in a rapidly evolving market where you have to educate the customer before they buy, before they know what they're buying. It's tough to price stuff. I think you and I both agree this is worth more than $10. Hopefully, you guys will raise prices as you educate, because I think it's worth it. That's just my take on it. So, but I like your iterative process. I like your entrepreneurial thinking.
like, seeing it from the side I am now, it's very interesting this last month, and how it's really opened up my eyes to what my future is going to be, because I really don't know if it's going to be something as like a business law AI consultant or a lawyer. And I've always had the dream of being a lawyer, and from a young age, I've always just thought that it'd be uh, a great life to do something good being a lawyer. And now the last month's really changed my whole perspective on everything, because I've seen the power of this technology, and it's going to take a lot of thought and a lot of just step by step planning of how I think that all this information and technology is going to go. But right now, I'm just going to be a law student. I'm going to try to help out law students with really giving them a new route to education, and not being the teacher, but letting the technology be the teacher. And that goes back to, I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a legal, and this is my disclaimer for the whole podcast right here, that I am not a lawyer or a professional or a tutor in any way. But that's what my recreational fun use would be, is to help, if I could write a book on any of that.
Well said. Good disclaimer there. Nothing in the book do you portray as legal advice.
Yeah,
You're sharing it for recreational purpose. How the user intends to use it is at their sole discretion. Got it. Yeah, it's good, man. Well, listen, it's awesome to connect with you. Keep hustling, man. I love it. I love it. Take care of your studies as well. Good luck in exams. And I'll talk to you on the other side. I'm sure I'll throw you a couple emails. I'm sure we'll be on Twitter together sharing stuff as we have been. So
absolutely. Yeah. Hey, Josh, this has been unbelievable. Thank you for taking a chance and letting me come on and talk about the company and the origins of the book, and I guess my journey into it, and just talking about large learning modules and all that. So it's been awesome.
And we just scratched the surface. I think we're gonna have another one of these. So it was good. It was a good first start, man.
Absolutely.
All right, buddy. You have a good weekend, and I'll talk to you.
All right. You too. Thank you, Josh.
Yep. See ya.
See ya.